You tell yourself you will get to it. You promise yourself this time will be different. Yet, the hours slip through your fingers like grains of sand. What if the struggle to concentrate is not about willpower at all? What if it's a fundamental misunderstanding of how your mind actually works? Most people believe focus is a muscle they need to strengthen. They try harder, push more, and end up more exhausted than before. This relentless effort often leads to burnout, not breakthrough. Consider the sheer volume of information bombarding you daily. Notifications ping, emails flood in, and social media beckons with its endless scroll. It's a constant barrage designed to fracture your attention. Research shows that sustained attention is becoming increasingly rare. A study published in the Annual Review of Psychology in 2022 by Verplanken and colleagues highlights this very challenge. They explored attitudes, habits, and behavior change, revealing a stark reality. Our modern environment actively works against deep concentration. It rewards quick glances and superficial engagement. This creates a mental landscape where deep work feels like an uphill battle. Many well-intentioned individuals embark on habit formation journeys with great enthusiasm. They read books, download apps, and set ambitious goals. Then, inevitably, they falter. The reason for this widespread failure lies in a missing piece of the puzzle. It's not about wanting something badly enough. It's about understanding the intricate dance of your brain. Think about that one friend who seems to effortlessly achieve their goals. They wake early, exercise consistently, and produce incredible work. You might wonder if they have a secret superpower. The truth is, they likely understand a core principle of behavior change. They have tapped into a natural mechanism that makes habits stick. This isn't about sheer force of will. This program will unveil that missing piece. We will explore the science behind why some habits become second nature while others remain elusive. You will discover how to leverage this knowledge for your own benefit. Imagine a world where your most important tasks feel less like a chore. Picture yourself gliding into a state of effortless flow, where time seems to disappear. This is not a fantasy, it is an achievable reality. The journey into understanding habit formation is a fascinating one. It's a story that spans decades of scientific inquiry. It involves brilliant minds grappling with a fundamental question. Why do we do what we do? One of the pioneers in this field was a psychologist named B.J. Fogg. He spent years studying how people adopt new behaviors. His work at Stanford University laid much of the groundwork for what we understand today. Fogg's research led him to a simple yet profound model. He called it the Fogg behavior model. It suggests that for a behavior to occur, three elements must converge at the same moment. These elements are motivation, ability, and a prompt. Motivation is your desire to do the behavior. Ability is your capacity to do it. And a prompt is the trigger that tells you to do it. However, simply understanding these components doesn't guarantee success. The real magic happens when a behavior becomes automatic. This is where the concept of habit truly comes into play. Habits are essentially shortcuts for your brain. They allow you to perform actions without expending much conscious thought or effort. Think about brushing your teeth or driving a familiar route. These actions are so ingrained that you can do them on autopilot. Your brain has created a neural pathway that makes them easy and predictable. This is the ultimate goal of habit formation. The challenge, of course, is creating these automatic pathways for behaviors that truly matter. Behaviors like deep work, consistent learning, or healthy eating. These often require more effort initially. The research by Verplanken and colleagues emphasizes that habits are not just about repetition. They are deeply intertwined with our identities and our environments. This adds a crucial layer to the puzzle. They found that when a behavior aligns with our self-concept, it is more likely to become habitual. If you see yourself as a writer, you will naturally gravitate towards writing. Similarly, our surroundings play a significant role. If your environment is cluttered and distracting, it becomes harder to focus on anything requiring sustained attention. This is why so many people struggle with deep work in the age of distraction. Their motivation might be high, their ability might be present, but the prompts are all wrong. They are prompted to check social media, to respond to emails immediately, to engage with whatever is loudest. Their environment is actively working against their best intentions. The science tells us that habits are built on a loop. This loop consists of a cue, a routine, and a reward. Understanding this loop is absolutely critical for lasting change. The cue is the trigger that initiates the behavior. It could be a time of day, a location, an emotion, or a preceding action. It's the signal that tells your brain it's time to act. The routine is the behavior itself. It's the action you perform. This is what you are trying to make automatic. The reward is the positive feeling or outcome you get from performing the routine. This is what reinforces the loop and makes your brain want to repeat it. Think about the habit of checking your phone first thing in the morning. The cue might be waking up. The routine is picking up your phone and scrolling. The reward is a brief distraction or a sense of connection. The problem is that, for many desirable habits, the rewards are delayed. The reward of a productive workday isn't felt until much later. The reward of improved health isn't immediate. This is where the science becomes incredibly powerful. It explains why willpower alone is insufficient. It's like trying to push a boulder uphill without a lever. The Verplanken study points out that habits can become so automatic that they operate outside of conscious awareness. This is both a blessing and a curse. A blessing because it frees up mental resources. A curse because if the habit is detrimental, it can run on autopilot too. Let's consider a real person who faced this challenge. Sarah was a talented graphic designer. She dreamed of launching her own online course. She had the skills and the vision. However, her days were consumed by client work and endless distractions. She would sit down to outline her course content, only to find herself checking emails or browsing design inspiration. She tried setting timers, making to-do lists, and even blocking her internet access. Nothing seemed to stick. She felt frustrated and defeated. Then she learned about the habit loop. She started to analyze her own behavior. She noticed a pattern. Her cue was often a lull in client work. Her routine was to open her laptop, but instead of working on her course, she'd get sucked into other tasks. The reward was a temporary feeling of busyness, a fleeting sense of accomplishment from completing smaller tasks. It wasn't the fulfilling reward of making progress on her dream. Sarah decided to change her loop. She identified a new cue, finishing her last client email of the day. This was a clear signal that her paid work was done. Her new routine was to immediately open a specific document on her computer. This document was her course outline. She committed to working on it for just 15 minutes. The reward she sought was not immediate. Instead, she focused on the feeling of having made progress. She celebrated that small win. She also consciously acknowledged the future reward of having her course ready. Within weeks, Sarah saw a significant shift. Those 15 minutes became a consistent part of her day. She was no longer fighting against her natural tendencies. She was working with them. Her course content began to take shape. She felt a renewed sense of purpose and accomplishment. The distractions still existed, but they no longer held the same power over her. This is the power of understanding the habit loop. It's not about eliminating distractions entirely. which is often an impossible task. It's about creating a stronger, more compelling loop for your desired behaviors. The science behind this loop is fascinating. It's rooted in the way our brains are wired for efficiency. Our brains are constantly looking for ways to conserve energy. When a behavior is associated with a reward, the brain releases dopamine. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that plays a crucial role in motivation and reward-seeking behavior. This dopamine release creates a craving. The craving drives us to repeat the behavior. Over time, this craving becomes associated with the cue. This is how habits become automatic. The cue triggers the craving, which leads to the routine, which is then followed by the reward. The cycle reinforces itself. The Verplanken et al. Paper emphasizes that habits are not just individual phenomena. They are also shaped by our social environments and our personal values. If your friends are also working on similar goals, it creates a powerful social cue. If your environment is conducive to focus, it makes the routine easier. The twist, the thing that nobody expects, is that building habits is not about brute force. It's about subtle engineering of your environment and your internal cues. It's about making the desired behavior as easy as possible and the undesired behavior as difficult as possible. This is the paradox of habit formation. We think we need more willpower, but we actually need more strategic design. So, what are the 3 specific mistakes you have probably made? Mistake number 1 is trying to change too much at once. You decide you will exercise every day, eat perfectly, read an hour a day, and learn a new skill, all starting tomorrow. Your brain is overwhelmed. It's like trying to build a skyscraper in a day. Mistake number 2 is focusing solely on the outcome, not the process. You want to lose 20 pounds, but you don't have a clear, repeatable process for how you will achieve that. When the scale doesn't move immediately, you get discouraged. Mistake number 3 is ignoring your environment and your cues. You have a goal to write more, but your workspace is filled with distractions. You have the intention, but the environment is sabotaging you. You are being prompted to do everything but write. Now, let's move to the concrete method. This is not a list of tips. This is a narration of a direct path to building habits that stick. First, identify one specific behavior you want to make habitual. Be precise. Not eat healthier, but eat 1 piece of fruit with breakfast. Not work on my project, but write 100 words for my project. Second, understand your current habit loop for that behavior or for the opposite behavior. What is the cue that triggers it? What is the routine? What is the reward? Be honest and detailed. Third, design your new habit loop. What will be your new cue? Make it something that already happens reliably. For example, after I finish my morning coffee. What will be your new routine? Make it incredibly easy to do. So easy that you cannot say no. For example, open my writing document or put on my running shoes. What will be your new reward? This is crucial. The reward needs to be immediate and satisfying. It could be a small moment of enjoyment, like listening to your favorite song for 5 minutes. Or it could be a feeling of accomplishment. Acknowledge that you did it. The science from Verplanken et al. Highlights the importance of identity. So when you perform the routine, tell yourself, I am someone who writes every day, or I am a runner. This reinforces the new behavior. Let's make this even more tangible. Imagine you want to build the habit of meditating. Your current loop might be cue, feeling stressed, routine, scrolling through social media. Reward, temporary distraction. You want to change this, your new loop. Cue, finishing dinner. Routine, sitting on your meditation cushion for 5 minutes. Reward, a sense of calm and accomplishment. The cue is clear, after dinner. The routine is simple, 5 minutes on the cushion. The reward is immediate, that feeling of calm. The Verplanken study also emphasizes the role of automaticity. When a behavior becomes automatic, it requires less conscious effort. This is what we are aiming for. Think about it like this. Building a habit is like creating a well-worn path in a forest. The first few times you have to push through undergrowth. It's difficult and slow. But the more you walk that path, the clearer it becomes. The undergrowth recedes, it becomes effortless to follow. Your brain has carved out that pathway. The science of habit formation is not about willpower. It's about understanding your brain's inherent drive for efficiency. It's about creating the right conditions for desired behaviors to flourish. The Verplanken research underscores that habits are deeply embedded in our lives. They are not isolated actions. They are part of a larger system. This system includes our environment, our social connections, and our personal values. When you try to change a habit in isolation, you are fighting against this larger system. This is why so many New Year's resolutions fail. They are often attempts to change a single behavior without addressing the underlying system. You need to engineer your environment to support your new habit. If you want to eat healthier, stock your fridge with fruits and vegetables. Remove the tempting junk food. You need to leverage your social connections. Tell a friend about your new habit. Ask them to hold you accountable, or find someone who is also working on a similar habit. And you need to connect the habit to your identity. See yourself as someone who embodies this new behavior. This is a powerful psychological lever. The science tells us that past experiences with habit formation can influence future attempts. If you have failed repeatedly, you might develop a sense of learned helplessness. However, the Verplanken study also suggests that understanding the mechanisms of habit formation can empower individuals. It can shift their perspective from feeling powerless to feeling capable. This is the core of what we are doing here. We are shifting your perspective. We are giving you the tools to work with your brain, not against it. Consider the concept of habit stacking. This is a powerful technique. You attach a new habit to an existing habit. For example, if you already brush your teeth every morning, you can stack a new habit onto it. After you finish brushing your teeth, immediately do 10 push-ups. The existing habit acts as the cue for the new habit. This makes it incredibly easy to remember and execute. It leverages the automaticity of your existing routine. The Verplanken paper also discusses the role of implementation intentions. These are if-then plans. If a specific situation arises, then I will perform a specific behavior. For example, if I feel the urge to check social media during work hours, then I will take 3 deep breaths instead. These implementation intentions act as mental rehearsals. They prepare you for potential obstacles. They provide a predetermined course of action. This is how you build resilience against distractions. You are not relying on spontaneous willpower. You have a plan. The science is clear. Habits are not magic. They are the result of predictable psychological processes. And by understanding these processes, you can intentionally design them. The Verplanken et al. Research highlights that habits can become so ingrained that they influence our perceptions. A person who habitually exercises might perceive physical exertion as less effortful. This is a feedback loop. The habit reinforces the perception, and the perception reinforces the habit. So the single action you can take today is this. Identify one small behavior you want to make habitual. Just one. Then design its habit loop. What is the cue? What is the incredibly easy routine? What is the immediate reward? Write it down, make it concrete. This is not about grand gestures. It is about consistent, small wins. These wins build momentum. They build confidence. They build the neural pathways for lasting change. You have been trying to force change. You have been fighting your own nature. Now you have the blueprint. The science of habit formation, as illuminated by researchers like Verplanken, offers a profound insight. It's not about becoming someone you're not. It's about becoming a more deliberate version of yourself. It's about understanding the subtle cues that drive your actions. It's about crafting routines that serve your highest aspirations. It's about rewarding yourself for progress, no matter how small. The age of distraction is a formidable opponent, but your brain, when understood and guided, is an even more powerful ally. You are not a victim of your habits. You are the architect. Let's talk about Sarah. Sarah was a brilliant graphic designer. She had a knack for creating visuals that truly sang. Her clients loved her work, but Sarah was perpetually overwhelmed. Her days were a chaotic scramble. She'd start with a list of ambitious projects. By lunchtime, she'd be lost in a sea of emails and urgent requests. She felt like she was always putting out fires. Deep work, the kind that required focused attention and creative flow, felt like a distant dream. She'd try to carve out time. She'd close her office door. She'd silence her phone, but the interruptions always found a way in. A colleague needing a quick opinion, a notification popping up on her screen, the nagging feeling that she was forgetting something important. She'd end her days exhausted and discouraged. Her to-do list remained largely untouched. Dee promised herself she'd tackle that complex branding project this week. It was crucial for her portfolio. It would showcase her true capabilities. But it never happened. Instead, she spent hours on minor revisions. She answered countless questions that could have waited. She felt stuck in a rut. This cycle of overwhelm was draining her spirit. It was impacting her career trajectory. She knew she needed a change. She'd read articles about time management. Dee tried different productivity apps. Nothing seemed to stick. The core issue, she realized, wasn't a lack of tools. It was a lack of a reliable mental framework. She was reacting to the world, not directing her own energy. One afternoon, feeling particularly defeated, she stumbled upon a concept. It was about consciously designing her environment, not just tidying her desk, but actively curating her sensory input. The idea was to create a space that signaled focus to her brain. She decided to experiment. She chose the branding project as her target. It was the most demanding. It required sustained concentration. Her first step was to create a dedicated deep work zone. This wasn't a separate room. It was a specific corner of her living room. She cleared it of all clutter. She placed only her laptop, a notebook, and a specific mug there. This mug was her signal. It was a plain ceramic mug. She only used it for deep work sessions. She filled it with herbal tea. The warmth and the ritual became a powerful cue. She also made a conscious decision about her digital environment. She installed an app that blocked distracting websites for set periods. She turned off all non-essential notifications. She even put her phone on airplane mode. This felt extreme at first. She worried she'd miss something critical, but she held firm. Her commitment was to that branding project. She started with just 1 hour each morning before the deluge of emails and requests began. During that hour, she would sit in her deep work zone. She would sip her tea from her special mug. She would open the branding project files. She would resist the urge to check anything else. The first few days were a struggle. Her mind would wander. She'd feel a phantom vibration in her pocket. The urge to open a new tab was strong, but she kept returning to the task. She reminded herself of the goal. She focused on the tactile sensation of her pen on paper. She listened to instrumental music. Slowly, something shifted. After about a week, she noticed a difference. Her focus began to deepen. She found herself entering a state of flow. Ideas started to connect. The creative juices began to flow. She was no longer fighting distractions. She was immersed in the work. She completed a significant portion of the project in that first week. This was more than she had accomplished in the previous month. The measurable result was undeniable. Her productivity had soared. But the impact went deeper. Her stress levels decreased. She felt a sense of accomplishment. She was regaining control of her time. She started extending her deep work sessions. She found that once she was in the flow, she wanted to stay there. She began dedicating 2 hours each morning. She even started scheduling short, focused bursts in the afternoon. The Verplanken study touches on the idea of environmental cues. It suggests that our surroundings can unconsciously trigger certain behaviors. Sarah's deep work zone and her special mug were powerful environmental cues. They were designed to trigger her focused state. The blocked websites and silenced notifications remove the competing cues for distraction. This is the essence of building a robust mental framework. You are not just managing your time, you are actively shaping your cognitive landscape. You are making it easier for your brain to do the work you want it to do. You are removing the friction points. You are creating an environment that supports your intentions. Now let's delve into the mechanism behind this. Imagine your brain as a vast, ancient forest. This forest has many well-worn paths. These are your habitual behaviors. They are the routes your thoughts and actions most often take. When you are constantly bombarded with distractions, it's like having 1,000 different voices shouting in the forest. Each voice is trying to pull you down a different, often overgrown path. These are the paths of instant gratification, of reactive responses, of shallow engagement. They are easy to follow because they are already there. They require little effort. They offer immediate, albeit fleeting, rewards. Now, imagine you decide to create a new path. This is your deep work path. It's not immediately obvious. It's not well trodden at first. It's difficult to find. You have to consciously push through the undergrowth. You have to clear away the debris. This is like Sarah setting up her dedicated zone. She was literally clearing a new path. She was removing the obstacles that would lead her astray. When you are in your deep work zone, sipping your special tea, you are actively treading this new path. You are reinforcing it with every step. The more you use this path, the clearer it becomes. The undergrowth recedes, the fallen branches are removed. It becomes easier and easier to follow. This is your brain forming new neural connections. It's strengthening the pathways associated with focused attention. The old, overgrown paths of distraction are still there. The voices are still shouting, but now you have a clear, inviting path to follow. A path that leads to a different destination, a destination of accomplishment and fulfillment. The key is consistency. Every time you choose the deep work path, you are essentially widening and deepening it. You are making it the most attractive route. This is how you shift from being a victim of distraction to being the architect of your focus. You are not eliminating the distractions. That's often impossible in our modern world. Instead, you are creating a more compelling alternative. You are building a mental sanctuary. You are cultivating a space where your best work can flourish. This isn't about willpower alone. Willpower is like a muscle. It gets fatigued, it can be depleted. This is about creating a system. It's about designing your environment and your routines so that focus becomes the default. It's about making the right choice the easy choice. Think about it. If you want to get to a specific destination and there are 2 roads, one is a bumpy, unpaved track full of potholes. The other is a smooth, well-maintained highway. Which road will you choose? You will choose the highway. Your brain is no different. You are creating the highway for your focus. The Verplanken study emphasizes that habits are not fixed. They can be changed, they can be reshaped. By consciously choosing and reinforcing the deep work path, Sarah was not just working harder, she was working smarter. She was leveraging the fundamental principles of how her brain operates. She was transforming her mental forest. Here's where things get interesting, an unexpected twist that might surprise you. Sarah achieved remarkable results with her deep work. She completed that branding project ahead of schedule. Her clients were thrilled, her confidence soared. She started applying the same principles to other areas of her life. She created a dedicated creative writing zone in her home office. She established a consistent morning routine for journaling. She was on a roll. But then something peculiar happened. She found herself becoming almost too rigid. Her deep work sessions were so sacred, so protected, that she started to resist even necessary interruptions. A colleague calling with a genuine emergency would be met with a curt, "I'm in deep work, can't talk." A spontaneous brainstorming session with her team, which could have led to innovative ideas, was politely declined because it wasn't scheduled. She had built such a strong mental framework for focused work that she was inadvertently shutting out opportunities for serendipitous connection and collaborative inspiration. The Verplanken research hints at this. It talks about how habits, once formed, can become quite automatic. This automation is fantastic for efficiency. It frees up cognitive resources, but it can also lead to a form of tunnel vision. You become so good at staying on your designated path that you might miss important signals coming from the periphery. Sarah had built a beautiful, well-lit highway for her focus, but she had forgotten that sometimes the most valuable discoveries happen when you take a detour, when you explore the less traveled side roads. The paradox is this: in her quest to escape the chaos of distraction, Sarah had created a new kind of rigidity. She had become so adept at controlling her environment for focus that she was losing some of the flexibility that often sparks creativity. The unanswered question from earlier was about how to navigate the age of distraction without becoming overwhelmed. We've seen how to build focused environments, but what about the unexpected, the essential interruptions? How do you maintain your deep workflow without becoming so insular that you miss out on the very things that can enrich your work and your life? Sarah realized this when a potential client, someone she had been trying to connect with for months, called with a very specific, time-sensitive opportunity. Because it wasn't on her meticulously planned schedule, her initial reaction was to defer. She almost missed the boat. It was a wake-up call. She understood that while her deep work framework was invaluable, it needed to be balanced. The goal isn't to eliminate all interruptions. It's to discern which interruptions are truly disruptive and which are opportunities. It's about developing a sophisticated filter, not a complete blockade. The Verplanken study, in its discussion of behavior change, often emphasizes the importance of adaptability. Habits are powerful, but they should serve us, not control us absolutely. Sarah began to experiment with a more fluid approach. She still maintained her deep work zone and her morning routine, but she also started to build in flexible focus blocks. These were times where she was open to spontaneous calls or brief collaborations. She learned to assess interruptions more quickly. Was this a true emergency? Was this a valuable networking opportunity? Was this a chance for a quick, impactful exchange? She started setting internal timers for these flexible blocks. If a conversation ran over, she would consciously decide whether to extend it or return to her scheduled deep work. This was a delicate dance. It required constant recalibration. She was still treading her deep work path, but now she was also keeping an eye on the surrounding landscape. She was learning to integrate the unexpected into her focus system, rather than simply shutting it out. The tension now lies in finding that perfect equilibrium. It's the ongoing challenge of being both deeply focused and open to the world. Sarah is still navigating this. She hasn't perfected it yet. Some days she leans too far into flexibility and her focus wavers. Other days, she becomes a fortress of concentration and she worries she's missing out. The journey continues. The age of distraction is a constant, but our ability to adapt and refine our mental frameworks is what truly matters. The question for you now is, how will you find your own balance between deep focus and open engagement? Let's explore this balance a bit further through the story of someone we'll call David. David was a software engineer at a rapidly growing tech startup. His job involved complex problem-solving, writing elegant code, and collaborating with a team of equally brilliant minds. He understood the power of deep work, the kind of sustained concentration that leads to breakthroughs. His days were often a whirlwind of meetings, urgent requests, and the constant ping of notifications. He felt like he was constantly firefighting, reacting to whatever popped up next. He decided to implement a structured approach, inspired by the principles we've been discussing. David created a dedicated focus zone in his home office, free from distractions. He implemented a strict no meetings before 10 a.m. policy for himself and communicated this to his team. He even went so far as to use website blockers during his designated deep work periods. His initial results were dramatic. He found he could complete coding tasks in half the time he used to. His bug reports decreased significantly, and his code quality improved. He felt a sense of accomplishment he hadn't experienced in years. However, David began to notice a subtle shift in his team dynamics. His colleagues, accustomed to his immediate responsiveness, started working around him for quick questions. They would collaborate amongst themselves, and he felt increasingly disconnected from the day-to-day pulse of the team. He was producing excellent individual work, but the collaborative synergy that had once fueled their innovation started to wane. He found himself missing important context during team discussions because he hadn't been privy to the informal, quick problem-solving sessions happening outside his focus zone. This created a new kind of tension for David. He was achieving his deep work goals, but at the cost of his integration within the team. He realized that his rigid adherence to a distraction-free environment, while excellent for individual output, was inadvertently creating a barrier to collective intelligence. The Verplanken study on habit formation highlights that while habits provide efficiency, they can become maladaptive if the environment changes or if they hinder broader adaptation. David's focus habit, while beneficial in isolation, was becoming a constraint on his team's overall effectiveness. He had a crucial decision to make. Should he maintain his highly productive, albeit somewhat isolated, deep work routine? Or should he adjust his approach to reintegrate more effectively with his team, potentially sacrificing some of his individual focus time? The pressure mounted as a major project deadline loomed, and the team's ability to quickly pivot and solve emergent problems was becoming critical. David saw that his isolation, while increasing his personal output, was slowing down the team's collective progress. He was becoming an island of productivity in a sea of collaboration. One afternoon, during a particularly intense coding session, a critical bug was discovered in the production environment. The entire team was scrambling. Because David had been so diligent about blocking out all external communication during his focus time, he was unaware of the developing crisis until much later. By the time he logged back into the team's communication channels, the problem had escalated, and a significant amount of time had already been lost in initial troubleshooting attempts by others. He felt a pang of guilt, realizing his dedication to deep work had made him less available when his team needed him most, even for a quick, critical insight. This was the turning point for David. He understood that the goal wasn't to achieve perfect, uninterrupted focus at all costs. It was about finding a dynamic equilibrium between sustained concentration and responsive collaboration. He needed to evolve his mental framework to encompass both. He decided to experiment with a concept he internally dubbed adaptive focus. This wasn't about abandoning deep work, but about strategically allowing for brief, high-impact interruptions that could actually enhance the collective workflow. David began by creating a new category of communication: urgent team syncs. These were designated, very short periods, perhaps 15 minutes, where the entire team would gather to address immediate, critical issues. He made sure his calendar had these built in, and he communicated their importance to his colleagues. He also started using a visual cue on his communication platform, indicating when he was in a deep focus session versus when he was available for quick, collaborative problem solving. This allowed his team to make more informed decisions about when to approach him. He also started practicing what he called interruption triage. Instead of automatically dismissing any incoming message or call during his focus time, he would take a brief moment to assess its urgency and potential impact. Was this a question that could be answered in under 2 minutes? Was this a critical piece of information that could prevent a major setback? He learned to distinguish between genuine emergencies or crucial collaborative moments and requests that could wait until his designated flexible focus blocks. The impact of this shift was profound. David still dedicated significant blocks of time to his deep work, and his individual productivity remained high. However, his team's overall velocity increased. The ability to have those quick focus syncs meant that critical issues were addressed much faster. His colleagues felt more connected and supported, knowing that he was still an accessible resource, even during his focus periods. The informal knowledge sharing that had been dwindling began to flourish again. David's story illustrates that the pursuit of deep work in an age of distraction isn't about building an impenetrable fortress around your focus. It's about developing a sophisticated understanding of when and how to engage with the external world. It's about becoming a master of your attention, not just a prisoner of your focus. The Verplanken study's emphasis on habit formation and behavior change is crucial here. Our habits should be tools that serve us, not rigid structures that limit our adaptability. David didn't abandon his deep work habits. He refined them, making them more responsive to the dynamic needs of his team and his work. Now, let's delve a little deeper into the underlying mechanism of this adaptive focus. Imagine your brain as a highly sophisticated broadcasting station. When you're engaged in deep work, you're essentially tuning into a very specific, narrow frequency. You're amplifying that signal and filtering out all other noise. This allows for crystal clear reception and transmission of complex information related to your task. It's like having a direct, high bandwidth connection to your cognitive resources. However, in an age of constant distraction, this narrow focus can sometimes lead to an unintended consequence. It's like having that powerful antenna, but it's so precisely aimed that it misses other important signals that might be coming from slightly different directions. These other signals represent opportunities for connection, for unexpected insights, for collaborative breakthroughs. They are not necessarily noise in the traditional sense. They are just broadcasting on a different frequency. The concept of adaptive focus is like learning to adjust the aim of your antenna, not by completely shutting down your primary broadcast, but by briefly widening your reception cone. It's about developing the sensitivity to detect those other important signals without losing the clarity of your primary broadcast. Think of it as having a dynamic antenna system. When you need intense, singular focus, it narrows precisely. But when the context calls for it, it can broaden its reach just enough to pick up crucial secondary signals. This isn't about multitasking, which is generally detrimental to deep work. It's about a strategic, momentary widening of your perceptive field. It's about making a conscious decision to briefly acknowledge and process a different signal before returning your full attention to the primary one. This requires a high degree of self-awareness and metacognition, the ability to think about your own thinking. You need to be able to recognize when a brief shift in your antenna's aim is necessary and beneficial. The brain's neural pathways are incredibly adaptable. When you practice shifting your attention intentionally, even for brief moments, you are essentially strengthening the neural circuits that allow for this flexibility. It's like building new, smaller pathways that can temporarily divert your processing power without derailing your main cognitive highway. The Verplanken study, in its exploration of behavior change, points to the power of conscious intention and repeated practice in shaping neural patterns. This adaptive focus is a learned skill, not an innate trait. The unexpected twist here, the paradox that reframes our understanding, is that the pursuit of pure, unadulterated focus can, ironically, lead to a loss of connection and a missed opportunity for synergistic growth. We often think of distraction as the enemy of deep work. But what if some forms of distraction are actually vital inputs for innovation and team cohesion? What if the very act of occasionally broadening our focus makes our deep work more impactful and relevant in the long run? David's story closes the unanswered question from earlier. How do you maintain your deep work flow without becoming so insular that you miss out on the very things that can enrich your work and your life? The answer isn't to eliminate interruptions, but to become a discerning curator of your attention. It's about developing the wisdom to know when to dive deep and when to briefly surface, to connect with the currents of collaboration. It's about recognizing that true productivity often lies not just in individual output, but in the collective intelligence and shared momentum of a connected team. However, this adaptive focus is a delicate art. It requires constant vigilance and recalibration. There will be days when David leans too far into responsiveness, and his deep work suffers. He might find himself pulled into too many quick sinks, leaving him feeling scattered and unproductive. The temptation to engage in shallow work, disguised as collaboration, will always be present. He might miss a critical deadline because he spent too much time on less important team interactions. Conversely, there will be days when the pull of deep focus is so strong that he might miss a crucial, time-sensitive piece of information that could have prevented a team-wide problem. He might become so engrossed in his code that he fails to notice a subtle shift in team morale or a new, critical project requirement that emerges organically. The challenge is ongoing. The space between absolute focus and essential engagement is a fluid one, constantly shifting with the demands of the work and the dynamics of the team. David is still navigating this intricate dance, learning to trust his intuition and refine his judgment with each interaction. The quest for balance continues, and the lessons learned are still unfolding. The journey into mastering your attention, especially when pursuing deep work, is often paved with subtle missteps. Many of us, in our earnest attempts to be more productive and focused, fall into predictable traps. These aren't necessarily the obvious distractions like social media notifications, though those are certainly a part of it. Instead, these are more insidious errors in our mental framework, ingrained habits that sabotage our best intentions. The first significant mistake is the illusion of multitasking. We've been conditioned to believe that we can effectively juggle multiple tasks simultaneously, that our brains are capable of truly dividing attention without a significant cost. This is a deeply flawed assumption, a myth perpetuated by the demands of our modern world. When you attempt to switch rapidly between different cognitive tasks, your brain isn't actually doing them all at once. Instead, it's performing rapid task switching, which incurs a mental overhead. Each switch requires a cognitive reboot, a redirection of mental resources. This constant shifting depletes your mental energy much faster than sustained focus on a single task. Think about trying to read an important document while also responding to emails and listening to a podcast. Your comprehension of the document will suffer, your email responses will likely be less thoughtful, and you'll miss crucial nuances in the podcast. This fragmented attention prevents you from entering that state of deep concentration where true breakthroughs happen. The second common pitfall is the overestimation of our own willpower and discipline. We often tell ourselves, "I'll just power through this," or "I can resist the urge to check my phone." While willpower is a valuable resource, it's finite. It's like a muscle that gets fatigued with overuse. Relying solely on willpower to combat distractions is a losing battle. The environment we create plays a far more significant role than we often acknowledge. If your workspace is cluttered with potential interruptions, if your digital environment is a minefield of notifications, then your willpower is constantly under siege. The Verplanken study on habit formation highlights how much our behavior is influenced by situational cues and established routines. When we don't intentionally design our environment to support our goals, we are essentially setting ourselves up for failure, forcing ourselves to fight an uphill battle every single day. This leads to burnout and a feeling of inadequacy, as we blame ourselves for lacking discipline when the true culprit is an unsupportive system. The third pervasive mistake is the misinterpretation of busyness as productivity. We equate being constantly occupied with being effective. Answering emails immediately, attending every meeting, and jumping on every urgent request can create a strong sense of activity, but it rarely aligns with meaningful progress on our most important work. This is the realm of shallow work, tasks that are often urgent but not necessarily important. They provide immediate gratification through a completed action, but they don't contribute to our long-term goals or our deepest aspirations. This trap is particularly insidious because it feels productive. You can spend an entire day reacting to requests and feel like you've accomplished a lot, only to realize at the end of the week that your core projects have barely moved forward. This is the antithesis of deep work, which requires sustained, focused effort on cognitively demanding tasks. When we are constantly in reactive mode, we are effectively letting others dictate our priorities, eroding our agency and our ability to make a significant impact. Recognizing these mistakes is the crucial first step. It's like a doctor identifying a symptom before prescribing a treatment. Now, let's talk about a concrete, step-by-step method to cultivate deep work in this age of distraction. This isn't about finding a magic bullet, but about implementing a structured approach that builds sustainable habits. The foundation of this method is what I call intentional focus scheduling. It begins with identifying your most critical tasks, the ones that truly move the needle on your goals. These are the tasks that require your highest cognitive bandwidth. You need to approach this with a clear understanding of what constitutes deep work for your specific role and responsibilities. It's not about doing everything, but about doing the right things exceptionally well. Once you've identified these key tasks, the next step is to carve out dedicated blocks of time for them in your schedule. This isn't a casual suggestion. It's a non-negotiable appointment with yourself. Think of these blocks as sacred. They need to be protected from external intrusion. This means communicating your availability, or rather, your unavailability, to your colleagues and team members. You might use tools like calendar blocking, where you visually mark these times as busy or focused time, signaling to others that you are engaged in deep work and should not be interrupted unless it's an absolute emergency. During these scheduled focus blocks, you must actively mitigate distractions. This involves both digital and environmental controls. Digitally, this means turning off all non-essential notifications. This includes email alerts, instant messaging pings, and social media updates. Consider using website blockers or focus apps that temporarily disable access to distracting websites and applications. It's about creating a digital sanctuary for your mind. Environmentally, this means finding a quiet space where you can work without interruption. If your usual workspace is prone to noise or casual drop-ins, explore options like quiet rooms, libraries, or even working from home for specific periods. Communicate to your household members that during these times, you need uninterrupted concentration. A critical component of intentional focus scheduling is the concept of pre-commitment. Before you even begin a focus block, you make a strong commitment to yourself that you will stick to the task at hand. This involves setting a clear intention for what you aim to achieve within that specific block. For example, instead of just saying, "I'll work on the report," you might say, "In this next hour, I will draft the executive summary of the Q3 report." This specificity makes the goal more tangible and easier to track. It also helps to combat the tendency to drift or get sidetracked. Another vital element is the practice of time boxing. This involves setting a strict time limit for a task. Once the time is up, you stop, even if you haven't completed the task. This may seem counterintuitive, but it helps to prevent perfectionism and encourages you to work efficiently. It also forces you to prioritize the most important aspects of the task within the given time frame. When the time is up, you then evaluate your progress and decide whether to schedule another time box for that task or move on to something else. This prevents tasks from expanding to fill all available time, a phenomenon known as Parkinson's Law. Following each focus block, it's essential to incorporate brief, restorative breaks. These aren't opportunities to check your phone or dive back into shallow work. Instead, these breaks should be genuinely restorative for your mind and body. This might involve a short walk, some stretching, or simply looking away from your screen and focusing on something in the distance. The Verplanken study emphasizes the importance of habit loops, and these breaks are part of that loop. They signal to your brain that a period of intense effort has concluded, and it's time for a brief recharge before the next cycle. This prevents mental fatigue and helps you maintain high levels of concentration over extended periods. Finally, the intentional focus scheduling method culminates in a brief review process at the end of your workday. Take a few minutes to reflect on what you accomplished during your focus blocks, what challenges you encountered, and what adjustments you might need to make for the following day. This metacognitive practice, the thinking about your thinking, is what allows you to continuously refine your approach and adapt to new circumstances. It's through this ongoing evaluation and adjustment that you build true mastery over your attention. Let me share a couple of quick examples of individuals who have applied these principles with measurable results. Consider Sarah, a software engineer who was struggling to complete complex coding tasks due to constant interruptions from her team. She implemented intentional focus scheduling by blocking out two-hour periods each day for deep coding work. She communicated this to her team, setting expectations that she would only be available for urgent matters during those times. She also implemented a strict no email or chat policy during these blocks, using a website blocker for productivity apps. Within 3 months, Sarah reported a 40% increase in her code completion rate and a significant reduction in bugs. Her ability to dive deep into intricate problems without interruption led to more elegant and efficient solutions. She also felt a greater sense of accomplishment and reduced stress. Then there's Mark, a marketing manager who felt overwhelmed by the sheer volume of requests from different departments, leaving him with little time for strategic planning. He adopted the time boxing technique, dedicating 30-minute intervals to specific planning tasks. Instead of trying to tackle a large strategic document in one go, he would commit to drafting one section within a set time. He also used pre-commitment, clearly defining his objective for each 30-minute slot. This approach allowed him to make steady progress on his strategic initiatives, even amidst a busy schedule. His team noticed a marked improvement in the clarity and effectiveness of their marketing campaigns. They were no longer reacting to immediate demands, but were executing a well-defined, forward-thinking strategy. The measurable result for Mark was a 25% increase in the return on investment for their marketing efforts within 6 months. These are not extraordinary individuals with unique gifts. They are people who consciously chose to redesign their work habits. They recognized the limitations of their existing approach and actively implemented a structured method to cultivate deep work. The key is not to eliminate all distractions, but to manage them intelligently, creating an environment where your most important work can flourish. Now for you right now, there is one single action you can take today. Not tomorrow, not next week, but today. Take 5 minutes before you dive into your next task, whatever it may be, and ask yourself this question. What is the single most important thing I can achieve in the next hour that will move me closer to my most significant goals? Write down that one thing. This is your intention. This is your commitment. And as you move forward, remember this. The pursuit of deep work isn't about becoming a hermit or isolating yourself from the world. It's about reclaiming your attention, about mastering your mental environment, and about unlocking your true potential. It's about understanding that in a world constantly vying for your focus, the ability to concentrate deeply is not just a skill, it's a superpower. Embrace the intentionality, cultivate the discipline, and watch the profound impact it has on your work, your life, and your sense of fulfillment. The quiet power of focused intention is waiting for you to wield it.